Take it from. Guys, how you doing? I'm Monty Mott.
I'm Steve Bass.
And the 9/11 retrospective on Hulu, entitled One Day in America. We seen it. And we're going to talk about it today. So guys, thank you for joining. And it's apropos that we do this, man. This will be coming out on the day of. And it's for those of age, you know, because there's a lot of people that are younger that don't remember or weren't even born yet. This is one of those you remember where you were moments when the World Trade Towers were attacked. And so my guy here today, he told me about a documentary, and you know, I was up on a lot of different documentaries, and I kind of slipped my mind that this was the 20th anniversary, but a lot of stuff's coming out. So he said, check it out. I said, yeah, you know, I'll get to it, you know. And I made the mistake of around about like 10 p.m. I'm folding clothes or something, and I said, okay, let me just do something and watch it. And probably about 3:45 in the morning, 4 a.m., I could not stop watching this. And it just, because it was things I hadn't seen before. It was footage I hadn't seen before. It was stories I hadn't heard before. And I just couldn't stop. I had to watch the whole thing. So I had to bring him on to talk about it, my man Bass. So let me first ask you, how'd you even find out about this particular documentary? Because there's a couple of them out there. How'd you find out about this one?
Well, I was just on Hulu, and it popped up as a featured video. So I said, hey, you know, let me check it out. Because I mean, there's a lot, there's several out there, and they're not really that good, or some of them are just kind of regurgitating the same stuff, just trying to get, you know, people to watch it or whatever. But I said, hey, let me check it out. First 15 minutes, I was hooked.
Yeah, they do it. They reel you in. And like you said, I've watched so many, and there's another one out now that it kind of is taking a little too political slant. And I'll be honest, I'm going to be fully transparent with you guys. I've had my conspiracy hat on, you know, for a lot of 9/11 stuff, but for this particular one, you take your hat off, because these are just personal accounts. These are just people, what they went through. So there's no, we're not even going to get into that right now, but it starts out, I mean, the fire chief and his story, and then so many stories. So I want to ask you, man, what, if you could put just a couple of things that you learn or see from this that you had not seen in the 20 years prior to the 9/11 coverage?
You know, I've never really seen, number one, the firefighter story up close. You know, you don't hear a lot of the firefighters, actually, you know, the people who were in the mix talking about what happened and the people that they lost or whatnot. The other thing was there was footage, different footage inside that I had never seen. And there was a lot of different footage from inside that I hadn't seen anything about, you know, because you always see kind of the same two things, see the tower and the smoke going with the wind, but you don't really see, you know, kind of what's going on in the lobby. And when they were even talking about things that was going on in the lobby, never heard that before. Never heard anything. So.
No, you hit it square on the head. As much as I just became obsessed for a while with with the 9/11 story, and you couldn't find any footage inside the building. You know, I just wanted to know, did anybody, you know, and again, now younger people, this was 2001. We did have internet. We didn't have smartphones, but you know, phones. So I just remember, I'm like, nobody had any video, because all you see was exterior things.
Right.
You know, but finally, you know, this really gave insight into just some of the things that were happening. People rushing out in the stairwells, because I used to hear about the stairwells and people trying to hurry up and get down, and firefighters going up. And you see a lot of things in this one that you just never saw before. So I want to ask you too, then, man. It's so many personal stories. It's so many accounts and things I had not heard. Is there any one story that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I don't know how much, if you don't mind me spoiling some of it.
Okay, yeah, real quick, this is a spoiler alert. So guys, if you don't, we're gonna spoil it after this now. We've been cool, but check out the 9/11 One Day in America on Hulu, and then come back to us. If you already seen it, stay with us, because we're gonna get some spoilers now. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, all right. Now, number one, it's 6 parts.
Yeah.
So, it's not like we can spoil the entire thing. We ain't got that kind of time. But as far as the main one that really stuck out to me was the guy who was working in the restaurant. See, because I had never seen or heard anything about the courtyard, because I'm not from New York. I haven't been there yet. So I hadn't been there at that time. And so this is the first time I'm hearing about, that the Twin Towers actually have a courtyard underneath. So he's actually working in a restaurant in the courtyard, and it's directly underneath the towers, right? And so this guy was in the kitchen, and he said, when you go into the refrigerator, he was like, you can't hear anything. He said somebody could be talking to you right outside of the refrigerator. You can't hear anything. Like so he's in the refrigerator. Yeah. He's in there for like 20 minutes. Yeah, I think he said just like 20 minutes. And I guess the restaurant has a glass view of whatever, but he's back in the kitchen. So he's in the fridge. And when he comes out of the fridge, he said, absolutely everybody's gone. He said there's nobody around. He's like, what's going on? Of course, everybody's working. So all the guests are gone. Everybody's completely gone. And then he says he sees one guest, and one guest starts wandering back towards the kitchen. And he's just about to say, hey man, you can't be back here. And then he says, again, I'm spoiling the whole story, but he says he sees the look in his face, and it has I guess like a ghostly look or whatever. And so the customer says, you need to go outside right now. So he's like, hey man, such and such. And the guy's like, no, you need to go outside. So he goes and he opens the door, and he says he can't get the door open. And he says he pushed a little harder, and he's thinking and he said he saw what it looked like an animal. Then he realized it was a body part. And then so he goes back in. Now he started to freak out a little bit. And the customer's like, no, you need to go outside. So he pushes past his object that is in the door, and he says he walks outside, and the first thing he sees is there's just bodies everywhere. And I'm just, I've never heard anything like that before regarding 9/11. Sometimes it seems a little far off, but when people are starting to put it in these type of, he says at that moment, right when he said there was a body that dropped right in front of him, boom. And he said, yeah, it was pretty graphic or whatever. But that one really stuck with me.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't know if that guy was religious, but to come out and see nobody working and to just see death. If you're religious, you'd be thinking the rapture happened or the God, because what's crazy too is so many accounts of people actually in it. They really didn't understand what was going on. One lady was covered in soot and coming out, and she looked back and she said, "Where's the towers?" Like they didn't really get the full scope of what had really happened, which I thought was amazing. I'll tell you, man. It's already picked a story because it is 6 parts. The fire captain is sending his own brother up there. He's a lieutenant, and right. The gentleman with his sister, and he's helping the lady burn. It breaks your heart. I'll say this one though. The one that maybe stood out with me was, I don't even know. I can't remember what this gentleman's job was, but he was actually tagging bodies. You were hurt, you got a tag, so the rescue workers would know who to help, and if you were deceased, you get a different tag.
He said he was actually a paramedic.
Yeah, I think he was paramedic. And he said he put a deceased tag on a woman, and she said, "No, I'm not dead." And he said he looked down at her, and again, I should say this as well. This is very, very real. They're giving very graphic details of things that have happened, and this is people in the moment. And he basically said, looking at this woman, and wherever she had fallen from, he said there was just no way. But he said he lied to her, and he said it's okay. He's like, I made a mistake. Someone's coming, but he knew she wasn't going to make it, and she was still trying to talk to him. And he talked about how he had to go to therapy and get right from that the things that happened in that day. And people, I'm trying to tell you what, if you have not seen it, you'll get a perspective that you never really could understand. So in retrospect, then once you kind of see everything and you take it in, I know me, I was just kind of blown away. Do you I'll tell you what, with all of that chaos, I had still such an appreciation for the people that would help and the workers. That's first of all, the firemen, it goes without saying, the greatest heroes that day were the firemen. But then you heard so many, you heard so many stories of just people. And one guy was a retired paramedic, but he went down there and he helped it, a Marine and all that. How did you feel just from a person to person kind of, man, I felt pretty good about humanity that day just for the people that were helping.
I mean, it kind of makes you put yourself in that situation. It's like, okay, what would I do? And more than likely, I'm probably one of the guys running and screaming. But just to see, I'm gonna spoil another part of it. But there was this one guy in there, and I mean, he goes into the another story. But there was this one guy, and he was trapped behind the wall. He said he had gotten through so much, and the last thing, there was one last wall between him and the stairwell because the door was jammed. He couldn't get there. And so a guy is coming there. He was leading a group. I mean, they were just all office workers. He was leading a group down, and they happened to stop and run into a lady. And she's like, the stairs are on fire. There's nowhere you can go down there. You have to go back up. So the group is about to turn around, and then all of a sudden he hears a little, help me, I'm here, right? Everybody else turned and left. Now he could have turned and left also, but he stopped and he turned and I'm helping this guy. And you hear kind of, and because of that, they became such great friends after, but this guy got to live, you know what I mean? Yes. It's a life, it's a soul. And he got to continue on because that man has made that decision to stop. Now, in contrast, there's another story where there's two guys and they're both trapped.
Oh man.
And
oh gosh.
One guy gets out and he doesn't turn around to go help the other guy. So just hearing all of these other stories about, it wasn't no black, white, Republican, Democrat, nothing. It was, these are people and their heartstrings are being tugged to help somebody else. That's big. That was really big that day.
You know what? And the guy the first guy you were talking about, the first story that the person came back for him. That story is so layered because he talked about, the guy that helped him was like, my group was going down. And the lady said, you can't go down, go back up. And he said, I heard that voice and I helped that guy. And he's like, and when I got him out, we didn't go up. We found a way down and we went down. He said, if I would have went back up, I might not have made it out. He said, right. So in a way, we both kind of saved each other.
Those other people didn't make it out.
And the other people didn't make it out because they went up. But that gentleman that was trapped that he helped, he said something, man, that he said that they were in the South Tower. So for those who don't know, the North Tower got hit first. And so people in the South Tower, at first you still didn't know it was a terrorist attack. You just thought, oh man, a plane hit, oh my God. So he said they kind of went downstairs, but the security guard was telling them it's fine.
Oh,
go back up, you're okay, go back to work. And he said that there was a lady in their group, in their office, that she said, I don't feel right. And so he said, well, go on home. And he said he remembered he looked back in the elevator and a lot of his coworkers, his supervisor was like, I know you're not gonna be scared of this, man, come on back up. And he said, I was the last one to get back on the elevator and go back up. And he said, everybody in that elevator, I'm the only one that made it. Because that guy eventually saved him. He's like, I don't know what, his account, he literally saw the plane coming into his office.
Oh.
It's not many people that can survive and say that, And the thing that I love about this is, this whole documentary was so well done. Everybody is verified. It's not like a guy's telling the story and you don't know if it's true. Everything's verified. And his story, man, it shook me because I'm like, he got back on that elevator, went back up, and in about 10 minutes, a plane is coming right for them and is hitting them. And all those people, they could have left. And, Um,
Okay, if you, I just want to just take that scene right there, just real quick. Okay, if you have never seen, number one, I have no idea how he didn't give up the ghost right then and there when that plane. Okay, and I'm just gonna tell you. I remember when I was driving in Minneapolis, and I was just the freeway goes right next to the airport, you know. But the direction that the planes come in, they fly and they land. You know, they go right over the freeway, and then they land. But it's more of a highway. It's not, it's more kind of like a back highway.
yeah, yeah, I
They
know.
go right over the freeway. The landing strip is right next to the freeway, whatever, and then they land. And I remember I was driving. I wasn't really paying attention, and I looked to my right, and I see what looked like the largest aircraft in the world right next to me, and I almost gave up the ghost. I'm driving, you know. I still get, I can't, but I'm just telling you the
Yeah,
size of these things. And he's watching this thing. He says he sees it, it's smaller, and he said it got big
yes,
so fast. And then all of a sudden, you're right, I haven't heard anybody else, but these are the kind of stories that I haven't heard before
yes.
through anything, any other documentaries. I mean, it was so well done, very well done.
It was, yeah. I mean, and listen, people, even if you haven't heard it and you listen to us, there's so many more stories. Like, trust me, we're just hitting just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's the accounts and the way things are intertwined with this, and it's just like, I mean, I just can't believe how firefighters were running up to get people. Like you said, most of us are running down, like, get me out of here. And these guys are running up to help people and to get people out. And, I mean, they said some firefighters, you understand, people, they're not taking elevators up. They are literally climbing 85, 90 stories
Right.
with all that gear they got on.
Right. And remember, they try to take the elevator because generally, when there's a fire or whatever, the firemen can take over the elevator and they turn that key,
Right.
and then only the firefighters can use the elevator. So they were looking for an elevator. They're like, hey, and then they were telling them there's no elevators in operation, which
Well,
actually
yeah.
which leads to something else. But I mean, if you've never, because and when I only lived in Minnesota for a couple of years, but I lived in downtown St. Paul. We were in a high rise, and we lived on the 55th floor. And I remember a fire alarm went off, and my best friend that was living with us at the time, we ran down 55 flights of stairs. And if y'all have never ever,
I
that's
can't.
no, yeah, it's no joke. But to see, so these guys with all their gear going now again, these firefighters, they had been standing outside looking up. They
Yes.
knew exactly what was
Yeah.
going on and what they were running into, and they still ran up the stairs. So that's huge.
I mean, at the time, come on, think about it. What are the worst two buildings to be on fire at that time? It's the World Trade buildings. Like, if you're a firefighter, this is literally your worst nightmare. The
Right.
worst nightmare in the world that you could have. And they're looking up and they say, let's go. And like you said, going down 50 flights of stairs is a workout, let alone going up. I don't know
Right.
how they did that. And people talked about how the firefighters, guy opened a door and people be able to get out, and they saved so many people. And
People
even
on
there
the
was a guy
80th floor.
yeah, yeah. And real quick, part of what they talked about was that, and I always thought this was stuff that happened in movies, but they said when that plane hit that North Tower, the jet fuel went down the elevator shaft and
Right.
blew out into the. So if, God forbid, if you were in the lobby of the North Tower, you died because a
Yeah.
literal fireball came out.
Now
So the
that
firefighters were like, we come in there, we see dead bodies. We're just trying to, like, what's happening there? So it was no elevators, even if they wanted to.
right. That's the first time I had heard that slant of it. Because remember, I know a lot of the conspiracies were also surrounding why did the building collapse and whatnot. I had no idea that it had actually gone down the shaft and blew up. That's the first time I had heard that. And that
Yeah.
explained a lot to me because I remember back when because I had watched a lot of videos, I had done a lot of research on this, and one of the they were trying to say one of the reasons why the building was collapsed was because the center was weakened. That was supposed to be the strongest part, but the fact that there was jet fuel mixed in and actually superheated that shaft, because they said it was like over 3,000 degrees or something like that going down the middle. And they were saying that was a probable cause. And at that time, I was still like, when I heard this account, said I had no idea. I had never heard before that someone that the actual lobby and you have firefighters. So, you don't. It's not. You actually have the firefighters who were there saying we walked into the lobby and there were burned bodies everywhere.
Yeah, in the lobby, and the fire is up to the 85th floor or whatever. So it really though that day. Do you remember? So real quick, do you remember where you were that day, the actual day?
Yes, very vividly. I was I worked with my uncle. My uncle, one of the deacons in the church at the time, he was a window washer, and so I worked for him. And we lived in Lansing, but we worked in Detroit. Most of he had a ton of accounts, and they were down in the Detroit area. So we're driving from Lansing to Detroit, and he gets a call, from one of the guys at church. He's like, "Hey man, where are you? What are you doing?" He's like, I'm driving to Detroit. He said, "Turn the radio on now." And so, hangs up, turns the radio on. We hear the tower gets hit. It's all over, in any station you turn to, they're talking about it. So we're listening to this whole thing, and I'm just like, man, and then while we're still driving, the second one gets hit. And so now, you get that little sense of panic. What is going on?
Yeah.
And so from throughout that day, we're actually, we're going from, because again, we're window washing, we're inside and out in a lot of places. We're in and out of a ton of different businesses. Everybody was just glued to the TV. I can't do my job because I'm glued to the TV.
Yeah.
But man, yes, I remember very vividly what we were doing, where we're at.
Yeah, I should have brought him on, but we were getting ready at my church. We had a morning prayer service, and one of the ministers, Minister Covington, I remember he kind of just walked by me in a daze, and I just talked to him. I hadn't. Every year, I won't always ask him about this. 20 years, I kept forgetting to ask him. I finally talked to him about it. I said, "What were you thinking about?" And he can't even remember. He's like, "I just remember seeing it hit and just being such in shock." And he told me this when I seen him. I was like, "Hey," and he just shook his head. He's like, "I can't believe what they did to those towers." And I remember I said, "Towers? What towers?" And he didn't even greet me. He just kept walking. And so I remember I went back inside. I said, "What happened?" And by then, the second plane had hit. And so now I was like, "Wait, is that New York?" I was like, two, and then it just hit. So he said, I couldn't even process what was happening. Like, this is real. And then 2 minutes later, I'm watching it saying the same thing. Like, is this real? Is this really happening? Like, they hit the two towers. And the crazy part about the whole documentary, the first part, is that you're watching it, and you're watching people working and trying to help people, and they have no idea that these buildings are about to crumble. And it's like, as you watch it, you want to like yell at them, like, get out, like,
right?
Because that's in nobody's mind. They're like, come on, we got to get people out, help people, blah blah blah. There's a story of a guy who was just a security officer who made him do drills at the World Trade Center. He's like, we got to get better at this, and he wouldn't leave, and he ended up, God rest his soul, perishing, because everybody said he wouldn't have left until everybody was out. But you're watching it, and you're just like, God, you just wish you could tell them, get out as fast as you can, but they don't know, at the time. Right. And I remember once those towers fell, it just took the wind right out of you. You couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and even honestly, and even still, because it's what you kind of see is, you don't see just the videos where it's falling, right? What you see is the actual speed in which it's falling in relation to real life. So right. You have like one of the news reporters, he's talking, right? He's doing his second take, does first take, then like doing the second take. Yep. And then he says, "Oh no, there's an explosion, such and such and such." And then all of a sudden he realized how fast, the speed that this thing is actually falling. Again, this is massive of concrete, and we're talking steel beams, building size steel beams. And he says, "Oh no, we need to get out of here."
Yeah.
And so he turns and just starts running, you know. But actually, the speed. So we talking about 100 stories collapsing
100
in
stories,
10
yeah.
seconds. 10 seconds. You don't have time to really react. If you inside the building, there's no chance.
You can't. Yeah. There's no way. And one more thing that I didn't realize too is you forget when the planes hit. You're just like, oh my God, the planes hit. And it's just this flame. But you got to understand, jet fuel and fire is falling from the building, and people were injured and killed. Not even in the building, standing, you know, because you're just looking up and all of a sudden it's just raining down. And that's, you know, they talk about a lady that was badly burned and unfortunately passed away. And you kind of forget that because you're just looking at the towers. It just was chaos. And our bishop always talks about how the smoke, once the towers go down, and the smoke is literally traveling through the streets and people are running. And there's a scene where a lady runs into a coffee shop and you see the smoke just go right past her, just moving. And she just, you know, and unfortunately too, you kind of realize that people have health issues from that day, taking in all of that toxic fume and stuff because they're trying to get out.
They were saying even with their shirts over their mouth, they couldn't breathe.
You can't breathe.
And so they were fumbling for the windows or doors or whatever have you. Because I think that same lady that you were talking about, she was saying, but I left my stuff out there. I was turning around to go get it. And they were like, no, get in and shut the door.
Yeah.
And so she did. And right when she shut the door, that giant cloud came through. That just horrific. But when you were talking about like the plane and everything, the pieces that were falling from the ground, that jet engine, one of the engines was found 2 blocks away.
Yeah. The landing gear.
But I mean, like the explosion, we're not talking about, it didn't fall straight down. You had everything go like this. And it's 2 blocks away. That I don't know if you remember the size of a 737's engine, but for it to end up 2 blocks away, that's
Well, think about it again. I mean, these jets going 400 miles an hour. It is. I mean, it now it makes sense thinking about it now. Like, it ain't just gonna be contained in the building. That thing is gonna, you know. But so guys, it is. Even if you think you know a lot about 9/11, it is worth watching this because the heroism, tragedy, you know, the stories of God, even brothers being reunited, the workers being reunited, some people, you know, there's so much tragedy, but then there's some triumph as well. So I highly suggest you guys check it out. Any last thoughts you got, man?
And with this one, it's so well edited.
Oh yes,
it was very well produced and edited. And my wife was actually watching. After I watched it, I was having her. She wanted to watch it too, so she's made it through a few episodes. But what they did is they actually took, like, say if there was one person that they were talking to, they found that person in different videos from different media outlets around. So, and then they meshed it all up together. And so you would see this person here that they're talking, and then you see them actually pass the camera like, oh wait, no, that's the same guy. Yes. It's so well done. It's very well done.
That's what I love. It's not just people telling their side of it. You see the person, you know, the guy that got out the rubber, you see him. He's telling the story 20 years later, but he's there. And it's so I really suggest, if you're listening to us this day, putting this out on 9/11, guys, we're probably not gonna have a lot of bells and whistles on it. All my editors are gone, but I still want to put this out. So you're kind of going to get this as is. But if you're watching us, please take a minute. Hopefully if you have Hulu or National Geographic. It was the National Geographic production on Hulu. Or if not, there's some other ones. I know Netflix has one. There's a bunch of them you can check out. Take a little time to just reflect. It's been 20 years, guys. It don't seem like 20 years, but
can I recommend one more? I'm trying to remember the name of it. But ABC did it. I actually just saw it, and but this was from the viewpoint of all the media, the cameramen, the reporters, and it was basically a collection of all the reporters and everything. It is very well done, and it's almost like an addendum to this. because one of the guys from one or two of the guys is in this one also from the one that we're speaking about. But this one, it's really well done. It's another perspective from it. It's really good.
Yeah, awesome.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, you're gonna learn some things. I'm telling you, and it's really, again, I was really just impressed with how people just kind of came to rescue folks that didn't even know, and a lot of heroism. So check it out, guys. Again, respect to all those that lost their lives in that tragedy, families and people that they lost and will never forget. The monument they made is really beautiful as well. Check that out. They talk a little bit about that. So many things, but I appreciate you, man. You put me onto it.
Thanks for having me on here. Appreciate that.
Got about 2.5 hours of sleep, but it was worth it, man. I could stop watching that thing. So check it out. Again, the one we're talking about is Hulu, A Day in America 9/11, but there's plenty more to check out. So guys, this is We Seen It podcast. Again, probably I keep saying it, but we're going to get through a round of shows, and then we're going to probably have our own channel because we do so much content now. And I got so many people hitting me up, want to talk about their favorite show, their favorite movie. So we're going to spin this off. This is still on Mighty Sharp Network, but look for it on a different YouTube channel just for all the content. But appreciate you, man. And you guys know what to do, man. Be blessed. Stay sharp. Have a good one, bro. Appreciate you.
All right now.